Welcome everybody to the 12 o'clock show and a special National Women's History Month show, leading off with Debbie Dunlap. What's your official, do you have a title? Is it Czar of the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation?
I am co-founder and chair.
Co-founder and chair of the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation. So we have a lot of things to go on to talk about today. Tons of Reynoldsburg activities. We're going to talk about some development. We're going to talk a little bit about some school stuff. So it's a big show, but we're going to kick it off again talking about a really cool organization that you helped found because you saw a need and you did something about it. So tell us about the Education Foundation.
So I always love to tell the story that, everybody remembers the Reynoldsburg pool and lounging around with my kids swimming. And so my very good friend Margaret Mary Lesney and myself were talking about some ideas and things. And so this is something that has always been a passion of mine since I've been a writer and covering other school districts around Central Ohio. And most school districts had education foundations. And an education foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 that is entirely separate from the school district, but is able to fill in with some of those needs financially. And I always say we're a bit of a cheerleader as well. So Margaret Mary Lesney and I thought about this and how we're going to go about this. We spent a lot of time with the Columbus Foundation that gave us a lot of guidance, talked to other people who have their own education foundations or founded them for their own school districts, and 5 years ago kicked ours off. In fact, the very first thing that we did was Christmas on the Town, and we've been going strong ever since. And I know we'll talk more. I'm just excited because we did have and do have a number of goals, 5-year, 10-year, 15-year. And I have to say we're moving right along. Margaret Mary Lesney and I, again, we founded this organization and she's still very involved in it. But, we have a wonderful board of directors that volunteers and gives guidance. And I wouldn't be here without them.
Well, the cool thing about it is student and teacher focused. So initially it was very much teacher driven in terms of some of the activities and things that were being done to help teachers do things in the classroom. So what types of things are being done with that kind of money? Okay,
so and you're absolutely right. When we first started out, we said, okay, it's like we have two branches, right? We're going to focus on teachers and some mini grants for the classroom, and then we have scholarships. And those are scholarships for students. And then I always say there's a little bit of a third arm, cheerleading for the district, and which I still love to do. So we launched our mini grant program for teachers in the classroom not long after we kicked off the Education Foundation. I'm pretty proud of that because we had heard that about 5 years they said, just make some money, hold some fundraisers, and then just be able to start giving some of that money out. Well, well before that, we started giving money to teachers, mini grants in the classroom, and we've been increasing them ever since, and we will continue to increase them as we continue to fundraise and invest dollars that will continue to grow. So we are on our 4th round of mini grants to teachers in the classroom. In fact, and I just updated this slide for another event that I was attending, we've given out 40 mini grants to teachers in the classroom for a total of $13,900. And we've had in the past gardens, raised bed gardens outside of schools. We have had a mailbox system in a school to sort of try to connect those older students and those younger students, also teaching some really wonderful things. We've had ballet shoes for some of our students that are working with Ballet Met that haven't been able to, running around in socks, and that's a little bit dangerous, especially when you're trying to I was going to say bust out some moves, but that may not be the right terminology when you're talking ballet.
No, it's a little more graceful terminology, yeah.
Some of our recent ones, and I brought my little cheat sheet. We have some grants right now that are solving multi-sensory engagement using special tools that are helping students relax. Another teacher grant was for a pop-up business at the high school selling handmade dog treats, and those profits are going back to the students so they can engage with the community and do some community-based field trips. We had some that were trying to make an impact on the community, and we're doing some fleece blankets so they could kind of give back to the community a little bit. One was really neat. This is using a 3D printer that already exists in the school district and working to develop a prosthetic arm for kids to actually use. So it's just amazing all the things that the teachers, these are ideas that they come to us and fill out an application, and we have a group that does the analysis for us, and they have a rubric, and everything is, all the names are redacted in case we have anybody, that might know someone, but great ideas that come in, and these are projects that, are a little bit smaller and might not be funded through the school district or a principal's fund or the PTO or something like that. So, definitely we're so happy to see all those really innovative ideas that the teachers are coming up with.
Oh, it's really cool because it adds another layer of something interesting in the classroom. So it's not your typical lesson. There's always something more to it. So
well, and I have to say most of these are very hands-on. So as we get more into the problem-based learning and hands-on learning, again, we always talk about as a school district addressing the whole child, and as the Education Foundation, we feel strongly about that as well. And so I think having this real hands-on learning that supplements so many other things going on in the classroom is perfect.
Well, one of the things that kind of was, you and Margaret Mary are out, and you're on the lazy river type of thing, and you're thinking about what's going on. One of the things that was kind of a focus is the Washington, D.C. trip. So there was a set of rules about how you could fundraise, and then the IRS changed things, and it completely changed the way fundraising is done in schools. So it was completely different. And one of the kind of the byproducts is how it impacted people raising money for the DC field trip. So you decided at that point, this is one of those things that I know that was kind of a focus point of trying to find ways to do something for that. So tell us a little bit about that and where you're at with this DC fund thing going on.
Yeah, that was really hard on our students when there was that change because, we all buy wrapping paper and Otis Spunkmeyer cookies and things to help students. And, some students are really working hard to raise those funds, but they cannot go into a particular account anymore. And so it has to go for the greater good. So if somebody's working very hard, unfortunately, that can't help them individually. So you're right. Margaret Mary, Lesney, and I said, boy, this is, and for a long time we were like, this is what we really, really want our very first scholarship to be. It's a rite of passage, but anybody who's been to Washington, D.C. just knows there's just so much to learn about our country there, about the world, about people. It's a great place of exploration. And so not only is it a rite of passage, but it's a wonderful learning and educational trip as well. And not all students go on that trip. There could be a variety of reasons, but we didn't want financial reasons to be a barrier for them. And so that was the very first scholarship that we wanted to ourselves personally fund. And so just recently we decided that we had enough money this year through our investments with the Columbus Foundation, who helps us grow our money, and through the wonderful giving of everyone at our fundraisers, which I know we'll talk about soon, we decided to start the scholarship. And this year we were able to send 12 students, help send 12 students to Washington, D.C. These are part scholarships, and there were some other local giving as well. So we were not the only ones, but 12 students, boy, we were so excited. And we can't wait for the students to come back and to hear a little bit more about what they learned on that trip. So, inaugural DC scholarship, another one of those goals that we have accomplished, and I'm so excited.
Well, it's a good thing. It's exciting because, obviously you had the COVID year where nobody went anywhere, and then trying to make sure that you have the funding, and then how do you divvy it up, how do you get all of those other things. So it's cool that it's finally, that part is finally going through.
Right, and I want to give a shout out to Amy Case, because she has been coordinating this trip for many, many years, and just made it very, very easy for us to hand over the funds, and then they did the selection and what have you. So I really, really appreciate that.
So that's the kind of the good news. The bad news is you have a lot of fundraisers that you have to do to earn that money. And sometimes fundraisers are fundraisers.
That's not bad news.
Well, it can be, because it's always, there's so many different worthy causes out there. But what the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation has done is they've done a couple of cool things. Obviously, you mentioned Christmas on the Town, and you can talk about that one, the gala, which is one of my favorites. And then you're going to have something new this year. That you want to have add to it. So if anybody has ever seen the movie Pretty Woman, you know, where she's walking in with all the bags of everything that she just went shopping for, that's what it looked like when Debbie was walking in, because I'm like, did we go shopping? Because there's very large bags. So why did you bring these very large bags of stuff here?
Okay, well, I'm going to tease it up a little bit first, okay? So, let me just say first that when we started, we had the Christmas on the Town, and we do a raffle, and we have a $500 donor, and $250 goes to the person who won the raffle, which is perfect right before Christmas, and the other $250 goes to the school of their choice. That's just for us to get our name out there a little bit. We do have the gala and auction, which is at 1883 Locale. Beautiful event. You're able to dress up. We have wonderful music, food, beverages, and wine if you'd like. We have a whole room dedicated to student art, which people can purchase. And then also at each of our tables, we do have vases that the students make every year as well. So it's a beautiful event. We raise a lot of money for our mini grant program. So we do have the Mulligan Golf Classic as well, which we do that with Heart Food Pantry. And that's a great day of golf. Well, great outfit day.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay. So, but we have a lot of fun, you know, and we have some giveaways there too, and some contests, some great golf. We have some great weather. And so that's a fun event, and we're very appreciative to be able to partner with Heart Food Pantry, and, you know, bring everybody together for a day of dress and golf. You know, I take a few swings. Good thing you're not out with me. I don't know. Maybe, our golf game is similar. Yeah. So, but we have a new fundraiser that is coming up, and that's why I did bring this today, and I'll bring a few.
Because it's Wednesdays, and we have pink.
It's pink, and I've got some more pink, and I've got some beige and a little orange. So the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation has just announced that we are doing a purse bingo. So a lot of communities around the nation are doing these. They're very, very popular, but we don't have one here yet. So you go and you play your traditional bingo, but instead of winning cash or, I don't know, a candy bar, we have these lovely designer purses like this one from Kate Spade. That's my personal favorite. This one's valued at $400. And so buying a ticket will allow you bingo cards to play bingo. We will also have a wine pool, so we're going to have wine donated, and it's covered, and you pay a ticket, and you get to pull. You don't know what you're going to get, a $5 or a $50 bottle of wine. And we're also going to have brunch there for all the ladies and mimosas. So, I mean, there's nothing better than mimosas, brunch, and my personal favorite, purses. Let's see, so here, this is a Juicy Couture, right? Did I say that correctly?
I have no idea.
Juicy Couture. And then we have a Michael Kors bag right here. Very lovely. We have, I'm always like, okay, how, is it Dinky? I don't know. I don't know this one.
DKNY.
Just DKNY, all right. That's like my inner, like, little Fisher Price or something coming out when I say that, right? And we have, oh, I'm sorry. So, Vera Wang. We have some Vera Wang. So these purses and many, many others that we will have able to win if you just buy a bingo ticket. Oh, see, now
I was to say, when is it?
I'm blanking on the date. Oh my goodness.
That's not important. Yeah.
Now this is a new venue for us on Taylor Road. There is the Lux Event Center, and it is gorgeous, right? So we're going to have this at the Lux. I've just drawn a blank. It's going to be April 27th, I do believe.
Which is good. You can do the
Is that a Saturday?
Cleanup. You can do the community cleanup day first thing, and then get all dressed up and go and get purses in the evening.
Yeah. So, well, actually, it's going to be a daytime event. So
in the daytime.
Thus, the breakfast and mimosas. So we're going to start about 11:30. Have a little time to view the purses, and then we'll settle down for our games and some of the other prizes and things. Everyone will be able to have a little bit of something to eat and drink, and we'll wrap up early afternoon. So, so that's our newest event. Yeah. I did put a save the date out, and I was so excited because so many people said, where can I buy the tickets? And we just weren't there yet. But I'm so excited that there is that much excitement being generated by something new.
Who knew? People being excited for that many
purses, right? Yeah. And I want to do a big shout out to Verigy, formerly Dynamics, which has been an amazing sponsor of the school district and the Education Foundation for many years, and they are our presenting sponsors. So without their help, we wouldn't be able to bring this great day to the community.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So. Do we have any questions from anybody about the Reynoldsburg Education Foundation?
No, we have some for development.
Yep,
when you get to that section.
Yep, we're going to get there.
Well, and if I could just say that Reynoldsburg Education Foundation.org is our website. There's anything that I talked about today. There's so much more detail there to talk about any one of our mini grants or scholarships, because we have done a few other smaller scholarships in conjunction with some other groups. You can find out about any one of our fundraisers, our gala, our Christmas on the Town of the Mulligan Golf Classic, which is also always in the fall. And then we'll be adding a page for our purse bingo.
Well, I know it's going to be a lot of fun. I know my wife is probably going to be a participant in that one as well. So before we get to development, we're going to hit a lot of other things. So do you have a few minutes to talk about your old stomping grounds?
Yeah.
All right. So
what do you?
I got plenty of time. So Reynoldsburg City Schools, a couple of big things. One, we have the State of the Schools address, which is actually going to be next week. It's going to be on Wednesday night at the Summit campus from 6 to 7:30. It's where Superintendent Dr. Reed is going to talk about everything Reynoldsburg schools, which is good. It's going to be her first State of the Schools. So we're really looking forward to that. If you aren't making it to that one and you're coming over to the City Hall side of things, we have the Town Hall on for Slate Ridge, which is also our Community Commissions night, so that'll be there. So I'll be splitting time in between the two of those things. So got that going on. If you want to get a little preview or a little more information, the office hours, again, this Friday from 4 to 5 at Graham Road with Board Member Whitman. From 4 to 4:30, it's live on Facebook, and from 4:30 to 5, it's that more one-on-one conversation piece. So again, check that out. Last week, I know I tuned in for a little while talking about some school boundaries and things like that. So there's always something that Neil is working on. I do want to have, and this is a long list of shout-outs and congratulations. So bear with me. First of all, Quinn Dean, again, for being the first Reynoldsburg bowler to make it to states. And that's going to be this Friday at HP Lanes. And if I'm really, really lucky and time it right, I may actually get out there. But I do believe there might be a link to watch. The women's basketball team had a great season, and we know it's a building year for them, so we're looking forward to some great things next year. Our men's basketball team plays tonight at St. Charles versus Taze Valley. So if they win tonight, then they will play on Saturday at Ohio Dominican and against a team to be named later. So the men's team is really good. I was at a game the other week, and it was just the guys are just incredibly athletic, and the hustle that they have is just phenomenal. So best of luck to them. I had an opportunity to talk with one of the athletes today, Noah. He actually was this past weekend. He's going to be playing for Tiffin next year for basketball, so it was really cool to see him there. So with that, we also want to congratulate Summer Batts for going to being the female wrestler to go to states. So we've got that going on as well. So there's a lot of cool things with that. And as always, last but not least, the Winter Color Guard had an amazing performance in Pittsburgh at their regional competition. And so they're going to have another one here in about 2 weeks. And it's going to be right here in Reynoldsburg. It's going to be at the Summit campus. So congratulations to the Winter Guard for all that they do. It's a cool thing. Also, before we kind of move on to some other things, earlier today I had an opportunity, just like I did last year, to sit in on the second part of a long-term project in one of the humanities classes at the Summit campus. And this is kind of the community awareness or community action event. And so today's conversations were with students that were presenting to myself, board vice president Jenny Quesenberry, as well as their teachers, and administrators popped in and out about things that they felt were important to them. And I know that everybody always talks about kids and they have these different ideas of what our kids are like, but all of these kids presented information today about things that are relevant to their lives, relevant to the schools, and relevant to the greater community. And it wasn't things that were selfish or unthought out or anything else. These were things that were a big address issue. So some of the things that came up are some of the things that I hear all the time. Litter. That is a huge one. I asked some of the students, had they ever littered before? And one courageous young man said, yes, but I'm never doing it again because he did this project and he learned a lot about it. Another one is how to work and to get the Tomato Fest more teen-oriented in time. So there's a lot of things to do for the younger kids and obviously the adults, but what do we do for that middle section of everybody? But two things that really came out, and this was in multiple groups, mental health and safety. Those were two of the things that were very predominant in conversations between the various classes. I don't know if everybody realizes the impact of mental health on students today. It's not that we didn't have mental health issues when we were going through school, I think, but now we're much more aware of it and we're cognizant of how any impact of what's going on in someone's life can have an impact in the academic world. Mm-hmm. And we can't just dismiss it because, oh, this is just part of teenage life, this is part of growing up. There is that component to it, but it's more important than that. And we're talking about the health and well-being of students, especially in a time where, while social media may say everybody has lots of followers and friends and connectivity, there's not necessarily that in the same place in real life. So we always want to make sure that's there. But they actually came up not only identifying what those issues were, but they provided solutions. And they were good solutions that I think were actual things that the school district could do if they wanted to. They could implement, as soon as next year. So those were cool things to hear. And safety was actually, surprisingly, that was a very big conversation. It was interesting to hear what the students had to say about their thoughts on safety within the district, within their building at Summit versus, things that they think could be done. Because they're all kind of in that same world. This is a generation that has grown up with, the safety drills and the lockdowns and all of these other different types of things. So to hear their perspective on what could be done is good. So I'm hopeful. I know the superintendent mentioned that there's going to be sometime in the future some kind of a forum that will be led by the school district to kind of address some of the safety issues. So I look forward to hearing when that's announced. Maybe that'll be at the State of the Schools. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and so often, and I'm not saying this in particular with the school district, because I know the superintendent does have a panel of students that she listens to on a regular basis. But, whenever we're doing any type of market research or polling and what have you, you go to your, your communities, you go to your stakeholders. And I think people would be very impressed if they could hear, because I know I've done this before as well, if they could hear how well thought out and well spoken students are, but they have a perspective that we don't.
Yes.
And they are in those schools now. So again, I'm wonderful, and shout out to all the teachers who continue to do this. And actively bring in community members into the schools so that they can be heard. And
it's a good thing. So the nice thing this time is we learned a little bit from last year, because I stole a couple of their ideas to implement here at the city. So this year I have all the students' email addresses. So that way when we go through, so if there's a litter initiative that's coming up, say, community cleanup day, for instance, pretty sure every one of those students that presented on litter today is going to get an email asking to volunteer. Just throwing that out. But it's one of those things to kind of follow up after the fact. So really cool with that. On Monday night at City Council, in case you haven't had enough meetings or town halls to think about attending, CODA is actually going to be presenting here Monday night on a thing called Link Us, or the Bus Rapid Transit System. So the quick version of it is an opportunity for the City of Columbus to actually participate in public transportation on a scale that we've never seen. It would be able to take somebody from downtown Columbus all the way to the furthest eastern edges of Reynoldsburg in about 35 minutes on some continuous bus travel all the way, with very few stops, but only in strategic areas, and some of those would be in Reynoldsburg. It's a whole philosophy of transit. One of the biggest obstacles right now for employers is to get people to where they need to work, and so public transportation is a good thing. The way the costs are right now, especially when you look at how much people spend in housing, that means that they have less money for transportation, less money for food, less money for this. So if you have some public transportation that allows people to get from point A to point B at a much cheaper rate than what a car would do. Now all of a sudden you have some environmental benefits to it, you have some economic benefits to it, and all of that kind of coming in. But they're going to be here on Monday presenting to council. So if you want to come in, you can. There's plenty of seating. I don't think we've had too many times where we haven't had an open seat. But you can also watch it online, so it'll be there as well. So that's this Monday, and it's going to be pretty early on in the conversations. So we do have a town hall tonight. This is the Wagner Road Town Hall. This is basically because the Wagner Road project is going to be starting very, very soon. This week we have individuals from the crews that are going to be out. They're actually going to be walking the route from phase 1, which is from Main Street to Priestley. So they're going to be walking it, and they're going to be identifying things that they need to keep an eye out for, that might not necessarily be completely in the engineering files. Maybe a tree was missed here or something like that. But they want to make sure they do that. Next week, they're actually going to be kind of like marking the trees that may end up having to come down originally, but please keep in mind any tree that comes down, we will be replanting trees later on in the project. But that's going to come tonight because the big question is, how am I going to get anywhere on Wagner Road during this process? So we do know that it is going to be northbound traffic only, starting when this project starts, which is going to be in early April. So you'll only be able to go northbound. For those of you that are directionally challenged, that means you're on Main Street and you're going towards Broad Street. That is northbound. So I'm just making sure that, yeah, you're welcome. So that way you'll be there. Now, is it going to be the entire continuous way? No, it is not. So that is going to be what they're going to be discussing tonight. So if you can, please join us. We are going to try and broadcast it as best as we can. The problem is with construction crews and the foremans coming in, it may be more of a conversation where the camera is going to be far enough away and you may only hear things. But so if you really want to know, just to make sure you get all the right information, make sure you come out tonight. It's going to be 6 o'clock until, I can't imagine we're going to be much past 7, but that'll be right here. For our police department, just want to let you know that March is actually Social Work Month. So thank you to our social workers in Reynoldsburg Police Department. They do a fabulous job of providing those services to the individuals in our community that need it most, so our police officers can do what they are best at, which is policing. So that's a cool thing. Parks and Rec programming, all sorts of fun stuff. We've got men's or adult basketball March 14th through the 25th, and that's going to be at the community church. This is 18 plus, and you got to be out of high school. So all of you kids that are in high school that want to go ahead and play against the 35-year-olds, no, you don't. So go ahead and join in after that for that high school thing, and it's going to be a continuous thing. It'll be good to get out there. We also have the stained glass event, which is actually going to be starting tomorrow night. That's at the Senior Center from 6:30 to 8:30. So for those artistic types, which I am not, that would be something, an opportunity for you to do. And if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and register online at the Parks and Rec website. And then we have, on April 20th, we have the Princess Party. It's at the Senior Center from 9:30 to 11:30. Some of the best princesses ever are going to be there, and it's going to be a wonderful event for all. So for those of us that enjoy the opportunity to dress like a princess when they like to, there you go. So that's an opportunity there.
Like homecoming, I got to dress like Barbie.
Yep, homecoming is actually that
princess.
night, actually on the 20th. So that's actually homecoming night that night. So for the older sisters, they can have the homecoming later in the day, and for the younger ones, they have the princess party. So, all right, development. So this is going to be a thing. So a couple of things that came up, on social media, there's always a question about what's going to be built where. And I've answered many questions on social media, many questions live here. But one thing that we have to remember, for those people that either pay attention to social media, and especially for those of us that are in the city, we live this every day. So we're very familiar with what's going on because that's what we do. Not everybody is glued to social media every moment of the day. It may seem like it, but it's not. So when people ask questions, they're just asking because they want to know. Maybe they missed it. Maybe they're new to the community. Maybe they have a life that doesn't require social media on a regular basis. I know we all felt what that was like, and wow, everybody freaked out when Facebook went down for an hour and a half. So I want to kind of bring that up about that when people ask questions, that's what they're supposed to do. So I'm going to go through the process a little bit, but tell you a little bit about what we do and what cities can and cannot do. So first of all, there is a time delay. So from the first moment that somebody comes in and talks to us, and then they go in through a planning and zoning board, or I mention it on the 12 o'clock show, it could be 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. It could be a year before you see anything actually happening, because that's where it's going through the engineering. So one really good example is the shared service facility with the school district. Mm-hmm. So we did talk about this about a year ago, and we talked about it. We had the maps. I showed exactly where everything's going to be, talked about it online, did create a lot of conversation, especially in the Friends of Pine Quarry and all of that. Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of went away because the engineering process has started. Now we're getting to the point where that process is going to get started soon, and so there were some people out clearing out some of the shrub brush, some of the stuff that you don't want growing in there, invasive species. I've been told honeysuckle and like 5 other things. The only one I can remember is honeysuckle, so I know those things are there. But some of the trees in that area had been marked, and so everybody's like, what's going on? Well, I knew what was going on. You knew because you were on the board when we were talking about it, but that doesn't mean everybody else knows. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're probably living a happy life without social media. So when those things happen, you know, we will be patient to make sure to explain what's going on. We're not trying to hide anything. It's just sometimes it's not there. But if you feel that there's something that you would like to suggest to keep us people more aware of ongoing projects, not just like the new announcements when it happens or when you see a construction crew out at Taylor and Maine, if there's something in between that we can do better to kind of have it up there, even if it's something that we do a website where it says, you know, potential or current development projects and it just says in progress, you know, that's fine. We're happy to look into that if you're interested. So moving through, the process is very simple for whether it's commercial property or residential. So if somebody wants to come to the city, they are more than welcome to. Usually the first thing they do is they call our development department and they say, hey, are you interested in blah, whatever it is. So let's say it's housing. Well, there's not a lot of room left in Reynoldsburg for housing anymore, so we ask, where are you looking to do something? And then it kind of moves through that process. There are only certain areas that are allowed for housing in Reynoldsburg based on our zoning plan that was approved in 2020. So if it's not in that area, it's just not going to happen. We're not going to be rezoning areas for additional housing. So if that happens, and let's say, again, it's a residential thing, and they find an area that is allowed for housing, then the next thing you'll see is them working privately. The company will work on their own, and then eventually they will submit it to the city about 3 weeks or so before a planning and zoning board meeting, which is the first and third Thursday of every month. So those are the things where you get the official submission. Now, usually that's when I make the announcement. Once we get something in and Eric Meyer, the development director, says, hey, we have these plans coming in on Thursday, that's usually when I start talking about it. Because until they submit those plans, we don't know if it's actually going to happen. So we have to have those plans in sight because that shows that they're serious about doing whatever it is that they want to do. So then they have the planning and zoning meeting, and assuming that there's nothing, like they don't have a lot of variances or there's not a lot of questions and it kind of fits with what we're doing, then it goes into that stage where it's all the engineering and making sure that, you know, the water, where, you know, is the water going to be flowing the correct way? Is there engineering questions? All of that stuff is being done, and then ultimately it comes back out on the other end. If it's commercial property, if it's just a single commercial building like the Chase Bank, that's easy. We know the Chase Bank is going to start. It's going to be starting in the next month or two out right at the new Kroger at the front section by the gas station. We know that that's Chase. We know it's going to be there. If it's like the Trivium site at the corner of Main and Lancaster, the Trivium site, or Paragon as it's being called, is its own facility, but there's going to be multiple businesses within it. So there's going to be a dentist office, a coffee shop, ice cream, things like that. So those are the things that are going in there. We may not know every individual store that's going to be in there, but we know that the building itself, obviously we've seen it, it's a lot easier. Trust me, if you've driven on Main and Lancaster, you can't miss it. So that's one thing with that part of it. Now, the next thing comes up is recruitment. How do we get certain businesses to come here? Well, most of the time, they're already looking at us. And so what they look at when they come to Reynoldsburg, whether it's housing, one, obviously they want to see if it's space. But if it's anything commercial, if they're looking for space, they want to see, okay, can we build or can we go into an existing structure and renovate it to make it what we want to? And so they're very familiar with it. They have their own real estate website for commercial real estate that everybody goes through. Then they can call either that person and say, hey, we're looking to put in, and in this case, there's going to be a furniture store in the former Babies R Us. All right, so it's going through the process right now. I know I've mentioned that before, so they're going through the process to make sure whatever improvements they're doing in the inside all match what they need to do. So eventually that's going to get announced, and there we go. We can recruit people when they come in and they say, hey, we're looking to put in this, that, or the other. We can say, oh, that'd be great, but if you hear about a restaurant, if you hear about an entertainment aspect, we would love to have those things there. And they put that word out, but ultimately it's up to the individuals who are purchasing the property and owning it that will decide whether or not they want to come to Reynoldsburg. Now, obviously, why wouldn't they want to come to Reynoldsburg? We're a big city. We've got 40,000 plus people here, so it's not like they don't have enough of a market to sell whatever items that they're looking into. but a lot of it depends on things that are not within our control. Interest rates right now are 7%. If they were down at 3%, I think we'd probably be seeing some different things. The next part of it is the impact of what COVID has done to the restaurant industry. Keep in mind, it's not easy. Restaurants, even in the best of circumstances, most restaurants, 50% of restaurants fail within the first year, 80% fail within the first 5. So if you start off a restaurant, you have to make sure you're there. If you're an established restaurant like Roosters, and if you're watching Roosters, we love you, we want you to come here. We will find a way to get them here eventually. But if you're an established one, it's a little bit easier, but they have a very specific requirement of what they want. They want to come into a building that is in essence a former restaurant, and then they'll rehab it and make it over to make their aesthetic quality, and then they'll move forward from there. That doesn't mean that they're not willing to build a new facility, but it is something like that. So questions about specific projects are always welcome here. There's certain things that cities can do and certain things that cities cannot do. We cannot deny someone based on, unless it's a zoning thing, we cannot deny somebody the opportunity to build something on privately owned property. If it meets the zoning, we cannot deny that. Whether you like it, whether I like it, that's a different thing. The zoning laws are what they are, and those are in compliance with the Ohio Revised Code, which is a whole other legal show that we'll have later on. So, yesterday, as I was in a meeting, Councilman Lou Salvati did what Councilman Lou Salvati does. He decided to let everyone know, as the town crier, as it were, as he's sometimes called, hey, Reynoldsburg, we got a lot of good things going on, which we do. What else would you like to see? So, 90 comments later, we have a couple of things. So I wanted to go over some of them. Now, obviously, I can't go over every single in detail, but I do want to go over some of them. One thing that was really interesting overall, people didn't know that there are certain things going on that we already do. People didn't know about how we have the Livingston House as our musical area. And so we have music on the lawn in the summertime, and we have bands that are there. The Reaganomics have performed. Who else has performed there? Jennifer, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, Lee Gant. We have all different genres of music. Chris Logston, local artists, country. We do all different genres of music.
So there's a lot of things there. So that's one. We have a seed, we actually have a seed group, a Reynoldsburg seed. What is it? A seed? What's the phraseology for it? Seed storage or seed swap,
Yep.
Which conveniently enough is later on this weekend, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. We actually have one of those. So there are things that are out there that we do have. And the question is, what can we as a city do better to make sure you know about it? You should be getting today, tomorrow, soon, the Reynoldsburg Community Guide, which will have a lot of listings of our things in there. So you should be an actual mailed piece of an item that has things all the way throughout the entire year. So you should be getting that in the next day or so.
For those of us who like paper.
Yes, there are paper things out there, so there's one of them. We also have the Heirloom, which talks about all the different parks and recs and other events, and that's done a couple times a year now. We have the Reynoldsburg Connects email, which just went out the other day, which has a lot of information as well. And then you have me talking on and on for an hour every week. So there's a lot of opportunities there. But if you have another idea, if you have something else that you think, please let me know. We're willing to try pretty much anything. So just let us know. So I'm going to go through the line. One, I'm going to start with the more art. So we do have an art part of our community commissions. And again, that meeting is next Wednesday night. It's at 6 o'clock, 6:30. 6:30. Those meetings last maybe about an hour, but it talks about what can we do. Like one of the conversations for the art group is with this bus rapid transit thing. Is one of the bus stops from Coda, is it going to be exactly what you would think it should be in Reynoldsburg? A big tomato style thing. So yeah, it's probably going to be that. Are there other things that we can do to kind of bring in art? And art is not just physical art. It's also music. It's also theater. It's also painting. It's things that we can display here at City Hall. It's things that our students are doing there. But it's art of all matters. One person had suggested, and it'll be at the Paragon, the former Happy Dragon site, the Angel Wings thing. So there'll be like a mural, and you can stand in front of the Angel Wings. So that is one thing that's.
And I have to say, the Reynoldsburg magazine, we talked to you, and there was a great piece that we did about all the things that do exist, and public art is is very popular here. So to hear there's more public art coming, that's wonderful. But you had a lot of plans that we shared in that magazine as well. So.
And unfortunately, not everything moves as fast as we'd like. Believe me, I want it to be. Next one, the downtown. Obviously, the downtown is a continuing work in progress. The Trivium site is being built right now. You have Prost, you have what eventually will go into the old 4th and Gold, so that'll be something that'll be there. So that will be that. And then the question is, what happens beyond that? You're right. There's a lot of interest. We are getting phone calls about things that, for retail shops, for the things that people have suggested, like boutique stores. Now, keep in mind, when you say boutique, Starstruck is right there. That is a boutique store. It is a very personalized store from one of our local business owners that's there. You also have Ohio Select, the institution, Bob Martin, if you're watching, what's up? But that is there. And do we want to have more in that area? Yes. We also want to extend it further down into the Old Town area where we have Tyler's Pizza and some of those other industries that are. So there are other things in there, along with Vic's on the other side of the street. We've got a hair salon. We've got a couple barbershops, things like that. So we are trying to bring that in, but we are also working on parking. So when the Trivium site is done, in addition to what Prost is doing and then the Memorial Plaza, there's going to be significantly more parking available for our downtown that is going to be handicap accessible, that's going to be open to the public, which is one of the questions that I have there. So people can, let's say you're not, I don't know why you wouldn't want to buy ice cream, but let's just say you're not there to get ice cream and you just want to go to Prost. You can still park there and then walk to Prost. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's one of the things that was be there. So that was one of the questions that was there. Next one after that one is trails. We do have a lot of trails. We actually have an interactive trail map. Maybe that'll be something that we'll highlight the next time on our Reynoldsburg Connects, because we're adding trails constantly. Obviously, Wagner Road is one huge addition of trails, but we also have the Taylor Road Firehouse. There's going to be a trail from the firehouse on Taylor Road all the way to Reynoldsburg, the junior high, Wagner Road Junior High. So the trail all the way there, and then you meander through, and then boom, you're at Wagner Road. So there's something there. There's all sorts of other trail work that's going to be coming along too. Splash pads. You're right. We'd like a splash pad. We know the little piece that's the Moyer piece, the former Moyer Automotive Shop. Eventually, that's what we're kind of envisioning in that area, is a splash pad community gathering spot. So we're looking at that. But again, everything is about timing and money and process. So we're going through that part of it. We are going to have a Dora. This is where you can walk around and you can have your drinks and all that fun stuff. It's going to be basically from Eastside Brewery right across from the YMCA, and it's going to extend probably to Wagner Road, maybe a little bit short, maybe around the Joseph's Coat area. But that is going to be in place. Once the Trivium development opens, that's when it will go into effect. So it is already on the plans. Talked to the city attorney about it really about a month ago, and so we're going through the legal process to get that stuff set up. So there will be a Dora there that will encompass all of that area. Theater and orchestra kind of go into the arts program. I would love it, and you and I have talked about how to integrate the schools and the community in a way that we can have more community theater here. We have a great facility at Livingston. We can use that. We can work at the summit as long as we coordinate with the schools. I think we could do it. That is something that I really am looking forward to seeing the community association kind of take the lead in and for that particular thing.
And we have a new, I would say, relatively new theater director as well in the school district. So, and he's, so I think, and with it, when Eastland Fairfield's performing arts program went away, there was a little bit of a growing phase for the schools and their theater program. So definitely, I think as that continue to build, absolutely.
And it'll be a good thing. So if you want to see what our theater program looks at right now, I already know tickets are available. It's April 12th. It's Percy Jackson. I believe it's a musical. If I saw it, so they're already up. But the tickets are going to be on sale.
How did I miss that? April 12th.
Yeah. Right. So I think
I go to every
it's that
play
weekend
a musical.
right around there.
Right, and it's just I would love to see all those seats filled.
Yep.
They're great productions, great price. You're supporting your community.
Absolutely. So we'll try and work and bring some more of that on. One that I have nothing to do with is chickens. You want chickens? Talk to council. I got nothing to do with chickens. All right, moving on. Dog park. We do have dog park planned for Civic Park. It's part of a master plan for all of it we have talked about. Again, that is a very intense project that has to deal with, taking care of water lines and electric, and because ultimately what we would like to do is move the Tomato Festival there because of the space. But it's going to take some time. We are working on it, but it is going to take some time. So that's that one. Now there's one other one before I want to get to the ones everybody's waiting for. One, the homelessness issue. You're right, there is a homeless issue. That was one of the topics that we talked about with students today. Couple things with the homeless issue is one, it's very difficult to find and have people who are identified as homeless to want and receive help if they fall in a category where there are mental health issues or drug addiction. For those that are not in that situation, there are options. That's why we have our social workers. That's why we work with them, so they can work with agencies on Licking County, Fairfield, or Franklin to provide options for it. It's not easy, and it's not instantaneous. I think according to the statistics that I was told, you're looking at about 60 days, 65 days for a family to find housing from the moment that they're identified before they're actually placed in housing is 65 days. If you're a single male, single female, then you're pushing about 80 to 90 days. We have around 30-ish identified homeless people in Reynoldsburg, but statistics say that if you know of a certain amount, then it's probably times 2 to get to that actual 2 to 3 times about what that actual number is. So while we may have 30, it probably is closer to between 60 and 90 individuals. Do we want to help them? Of course we do, if they want help. If they don't, there's very little we can do. And I will say, and I've said this before on social media, there was what the term is called hostile architecture. Some of the benches on Main Street that were kind of segmented in a way so nobody could lie down and things like that. As you notice, they're not there anymore. That is not something that we're going to go with. So we are going to try and find people that, but we're certainly not going to hide homelessness. What I would suggest we do is that if you feel that you know someone who might be that one paycheck away, that one bad incident, that one medical thing, reach out to the city for help, because we have resources that we can point people to here to keep people in the home before they lose their home. But I will not make this a city that, casts out or shames people for circumstances a lot of times that are way beyond their control. So that's my philosophy on the homelessness issue. As far as finding our own specific shelter in that, we did look into it, but that is a massive undertaking, and we don't have the capacity as the city of Reynoldsburg to deal with that. That is a county-wide thing. That is a region-wide thing. So it's not that we're not working on it. It's just that is one of those problems that is too big for Reynoldsburg to handle on its own. And if you know me, very rarely do I ever say something is something that we cannot do, but that is just one of those difficult issues. So we got a couple of other questions about that before I hit the last topics. How will the use of the lot be controlled? It is going to be kind of a first come, first basis on the parking area. So if you want to come in and park, that's fine. There'll be a lot of movement in and out. And again, please utilize Memorial Plaza. It's going to be fine there. How will Link Us affect the frontage on Main Street in this area? It won't. CODA laughingly knows that they will not pass basically Davidson with any of their Link Us stuff until they get to the other side of Wagner. I may have joked that I have my Gandalf costume and I will stand out there and say, "You shall not pass," so that part won't be touched. Everything prior to that, different story, but that will not be there. What is being considered minimized to the blind spot at Main created by the tight curb and the height of this new building? Part of that is traffic lights. Part of that is following and being safe. Part of that is making sure that you don't turn unless you have that turn arrow. So that is something there. And as far as the design fits in the old Reynoldsburg aesthetics, it is actually going in with the aesthetics that are required for that area. So when it looks like a big green building right now. So that's not what it's going to look like. It's going to have a lot of that brick. There may be some gray brick on the back side of things, but it is going to fit within the aesthetics of everything. So those were just some questions out there. And now to the fun one: pool. Community pool. Was that one of the questions by any chance? No?
No, okay. I just brought that one up.
Yeah, I remember the community pool. Oh. I went to the community pool. I enjoyed it because I could go there at the end of a school day, and my kids were younger, and they would go and ignore my wife and I as we just kind of, lazy around the river for a little while. There is no community pool like that. Most community pools in areas like that are severely understaffed, and they are a drain on cities' resources, which is why I believe the previous administration decided to go the direction of the YMCA. That is what they chose to do. If there is such a call for a community pool that is similar to, I think somebody mentioned the Westerville Rec Center and things of that nature, if there is that much of a pull for it, I understand that. I may even agree with wanting to have something like that, but that is a massive undertaking. That is something the city cannot do by itself. That means that that's another issue. That is a bond issue that goes out, and that would be something that would be an additional cost to the taxpayers. Am I opposed to it? No, I'd love to have the conversations with it, but we're talking a huge amount of money for a facility that would be something similar to that. If you are interested in having further conversations about doing that, please reach out to me. We'll sit and I can pull up some numbers and we can talk about what it would be like, what the impact would be on communities as far as, the additional property taxes and things like that. I get it. I'd love to have something like that. I don't know if that's something that is economically feasible in Reynoldsburg right now, because not only would you have to do that, you'd have to buy the land, then you'd have to operate it, and it is a massive undertaking, which again is why I think that the city went the direction that it did with the YMCA.
Yeah. And I remember that. I went to all the public meetings. There were a lot of public forums about it. And I remember at the time there was a lot of discussion that there were other communities that had these, and none of them were operating in the positive. Everybody had a deficit, and so then it's it becomes a financial burden on a community. And I think the compromise was the YMCA, and as a community meeting place, a place to swim and what have you, and
the economic impact therein. And I'm perfectly, like I said, I'm perfectly for it. The last two items on there, bowling and skating rinks. So for those of you that don't know, I used to coach bowling in high school. So I did it for 12 years, so I spent a lot of time in every bowling alley all the way around Central Ohio. And one thing that I learned in all of those times is none of them said that any of those things were actually very profitable. And so that's why you don't see a lot of new bowling alleys of the size and scope that are out there. The size and scope of a Rule 3, that's different. That's a much smaller type of scale of thing. The problem with Reynoldsburg with this is kind of what we mentioned earlier. You have two options when you're looking to do a bowling alley. One is you build brand new, which again, we talked about interest rates and materials cost, and that is an expensive thing, let alone the land. The other one is you rehab or refurbish an existing building to do so. Right now, Reynoldsburg doesn't have that. Reynoldsburg never embraced some of the larger logistic type centers or the warehouse spaces, so there's not a lot of options for that. That doesn't mean that we aren't interested in it. Same thing with the skating rink. The other thing that I want to ask, and sometimes this hurts the nostalgia factor of things, is when you say you want to have those opportunities for kids today to do the bowling, to do the skating, my question would be, when's the last time you've been at a bowling alley? When's the last time you've been skating? Because there is a difference. Remember, the people that own and operate those things, they want to make money. And if they're not going to get consistent people to come to it, then it becomes a different thing. That doesn't mean that we can't do it or adjust a scale or things of that nature, but there's a reason why the bowling alley in Reynoldsburg did not succeed. There's a reason why the skating rink did not succeed. Times change, marketing changes, kids' interests change. Believe me, in the 5 years that I've been out of high school, the ideas and thoughts and processes of what high school kids want or like or don't like, completely different now than even just 5 years ago, let alone a generational type of thing. That doesn't mean that if somebody calls me in 20 minutes and says, hey, Mr. Mayor, I would love to build a bowling alley in this location, it would be right here, are you interested? I doubt they would even complete the sentence before I said, yes, I'm interested. So we are always going to look for it. We're always going to talk about it, but there's a lot more market stuff in there. Could the city do it itself? Possibly, but then you're looking again, that financial expense and what is the intent of what the city wants or what the community wants the city to spend its taxpayer dollars on. So there are a lot of things with that I think would be great. I just don't know if we can do it or if it's in the best economic interest of those outside people. Were there, you said you had some other questions as well. Was there anything in there that I did not answer or some other more specific questions?
There was another specific, there's two questions I think that we can hit on. One was talking about, this says there isn't enough parking at the Livingston House. Any plans for additional parking around that location? And keep in mind, we do use the Reynoldsburg Community Church for additional parking there, but if you'd like to add to that.
You got the Reynoldsburg Community Church, and depending on if it's a Saturday event or something like that, obviously you have the business park behind it that you can do, that you can now walk during the actual new walkway that's there by the bridge, so that's an option as well. But I agree, that's something that's there. Will there be additional parking on site? Probably not, because we want to try and keep that as, I don't want to say historic, we want to keep that as natural and the look of it as best as we can. We have had some discussions to put a stage there, something more permanent as far as a stage, so that may be something that we look at in the future, so that way it might open up opportunities for people to, maybe have a wedding there, so you have like a standard stage there, or if you have concerts there.
Kind of like an amphitheater?
Yeah, a little bit, so that might be something that's there. So that is an option that we're looking at, it just kind of depends. And the next question?
Says, can you discuss how the city determines which development projects receive incentives like tax abatements and TIF funding? Are such programs necessary to keep Reynoldsburg competitive with peer and neighboring municipalities? How does the Reynoldsburg City School District factor into the city's strategy? Okay,
so there's two things, and this goes into it. So there's only one abatement in the city of Reynoldsburg, and that's for the Central Ohio Primary Care Facility. And what we did is we had an agreement when you were on the school board that we are splitting the income tax revenue from that. So while the district won't get the full property tax value for the 15 years, we are going to take the income tax and split it up. That's the only abatement that we have. We have one, and the phraseology is stupid, and I don't know why they say it. We have a number of non-school TIFs. A non-school TIF basically is where we don't take any money away from the school district. So when we do TIFs for public infrastructure, and that's what TIFs are about, you can use it for public infrastructure. So if it's public parking at Trivium and some of the work that's being done there, that is a TIF. That is what's there. Any of the work that's being done up and along Main Street from the commercial aspect of it that the public can participate in, that would be a TIF, and that's there. So those are things that we hold the schools harmless, as well as, if depending on the county, like obviously Tura Township Fire Department or any of the number of agencies, MMRD and so on and so forth. Those are not dealt with. The only time that we've done I guess you could say, a TIF that impacts the school district, which is what we did for the Wagner Road project, which is a 1075, which means for 10 years, the city is going to take 75% of the income of the property taxes for it, and that's what's helping to pay for the entirety of the project. These are property taxes that were going to come to the city anyway, but instead of being split out amongst the schools and the city, the city is going to get its share first to pay for that project, and then once that is done, hopefully prior to the 10-year mark, then everything else reverts back to the schools. So that's what we do. If anybody comes to me and asks for an abatement, like Columbus recently, they pretty much gave a blank sheet to everybody that if you want to do a residential abatement for anything in the city of Columbus, you can do so. And it's just for residential. Usually abatements are for income tax generating businesses. This is just residential. Right now, I have no interest in that, and I've expressed that even actually just this week to somebody who wanted to put in some housing. And believe me, if you've listened to me long enough, I enjoy housing. I think that there needs to be more of it in Central Ohio, so that's not the issue. The issue is, from an economic standpoint, there's only so much that any municipality can handle when it comes to adding housing without having the opportunity for the infrastructure. And housing itself is not there. It's a market that you can still build housing. We have plenty of housing that is already being built here as well as other areas, so that's probably not what I'm going to do. The other thing I wanted to mention for the abatement stuff when it comes to the school district, the Central Ohio Primary Care said that by this point in time, they're going to have this many employees and this is what their income revenue is going to be. And by this time, it's going to be this much and so on and so forth. If they don't meet those goals, there's going to be a rollback. So they don't get a blank check for the abatement. So if they don't fulfill their end of the bargain, then they will have to make up the difference to the school district with the property tax that goes there. So there are some clawback measures that are in there. Not every community does that, and that's part of the reason why it's there. But the other part of the last part of the question that I mentioned, as far as whether or not that these are things that we can do to keep in competition with others ones. For residential, like I said, probably not going to be an issue for us. When it comes to the commercial stuff, if we want to bring in commercial development on the scale that would be impactful for the city of Reynoldsburg, that is the only option. If not, the people will go somewhere else. Because if you had a choice between spending X amount of dollars more at this location or X amount of dollars less at this location, and you still have the same output of everything, the businesses are going to go somewhere else. And the State House is not doing anybody any favors when they raise the threshold for non-school board approval that everybody knows used to be anything more than 50% had to go to the school board. Now it's 75, and there's a bill that's going to be submitted in the not-too-distant future that's going to exempt school districts from having any say on abatements. It's just a matter of time. So that is what everyone is up against, because cities our lifeblood does not come from property taxes. Our lifeblood comes from the income tax, and that's how it is. So they are purposely, in my opinion, setting schools and cities against each other to fight over this particular aspect of things.
We have two questions, and I think you can answer them both together. It says, who is trying to raise funds for the Center Ice Foundation? And then the next question was, what is going in besides Central Ohio Primary Care?
So Central, the Center Ice. Sorry, yeah, Center Ice is actually no longer going to be a project that is being worked on in Reynoldsburg. The cost factor of it, a $20 million building with everything else ended up turning into a $35 million building. So they're investigating something else. If they chose to come back to look at Reynoldsburg, we would have welcomed them with open arms. But right now, the cost is just not there. I can tell you what I would like to see there. In that location, what I would like to see would be some frontage of restaurant or retail space. I would like to see some youth athletic facilities of some sort in the back that people can participate in, indoor primarily, because obviously Ohio weather is what it is. But that's what I would like to see there. What will happen there just kind of depends. Hopefully we'll have some news in the not too distant future, but I do want to try and find a way to bring in something that is more kid-oriented, more entertainment-oriented to that area. It just depends on how things work out. That's a good question.
That's it for right now.
All right. For those of you that are on Facebook and you see this, and I think it was on Raider Strong, by all means, feel free to shoot me some questions. I'll have this on my own page later in case you missed it. But I wanted to address a lot of those things. All right, back to more fun things. We have events. First of all, we've got the event tomorrow night at the Town Hall, but we also have the Harriet Tubman Walk that's going to be this Saturday. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to do this or not yet.
I did it last year.
Okay.
It was amazing.
So it's going to be a much shorter walk. It's just going to start at the YMCA about 11:45, and they're going to come over to here to City Hall, and then we're actually going to watch a movie based on Harriet Tubman here at City Hall. So that's going to be an opportunity. So special shout out to Council President Meredith Lawson Rowe, Board President Angela Abram is also in there, Councilwoman Mildred Johnson. So that's a good thing that's coming on. We do have our Community Cleanup Day information that is coming up. We have on April 27th. So once you're recovered from your mimosas on the 20th.
No, 27th.
27th. That's right, 27th.
Yes, it is the 27th, 11:30. So I don't know. You're going to have to.
So come do.
Or
community
send the
cleanup.
guys to go do that. The wives come over and spend some time with the Education Foundation.
All right, so then you can do that, and then head out to that one. But we'll have the proper flag disposal, pill disposal, the bike donations, the bulk drop-off, shedding, electronic disposal. All of that's going to be right here at the City Hall in the JFK Park area. So come on out for that. We are eagerly anticipating seeing what the kids in the Reynoldsburg City School elementary schools have with their T-shirts that they're going to submit. They're going to submit designs, and then we're going to look around here and try and figure out which one's the best one to put on those T-shirts. So really looking forward to that. We have our Tomato Festival. Again, we have Friday night, we have 112, and then on Saturday night, I mentioned we do have Sister Hazel and Vertical Horizon. That'll be kind of a dual act in there, so that's going to be pretty cool. We also have, as always, and I didn't know if you were aware of this, the United States is turning 250 years old in 2026. Did you know that?
I hadn't really thought about that. No.
Well, we're planning ahead because it's not you don't turn 250, that often.
No.
So we are looking for people to participate in our 250 committee. So we have a growing committee about things to make sure that everybody knows how awesome this birthday party celebration is and what Reynoldsburg's going to do to recognize it. So if you or anybody out there would like to join it, please notify Jessica, who's leading this up, eagerly anticipating all sorts of cool things. I was actually at a conversation at the Central Ohio Mayors and Managers Association, and I made a very bad kind of like dad joke, but I thought it was funny. We all know that this is going to be a bigger celebration in 2026. So, I joked to Mayor Ginther. I said, well, it looks like, red, white, and boom has got to be redder, whiter, and boomier. And so then at that point, after all the groans and laughs were done, but it's going to be, I think you're going to see a huge thing, a celebration all the way across, especially here in Reynoldsburg. So with that, again, thank you for coming. Were there any last second questions?
Nope.
All right. Next Wednesday, we're going to continue on with National Women's History Month, and we're going to reach out to Judy Dorn, who is our Senior Center Director. So she's going to come out here and talk about all the cool things that are going on and none of the illegal gambling that may or may not be going on at the Senior Center. So there's going to be a lot of cool things with that. With that, stay safe, stay respectful. Debbie, thank you again for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's not our shortest one ever. But again, we hit the hour mark. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Put your shopping carts away.